Fleckett of Soltar Solutions, and I'm here today on Focus Forward to talk about a very important topic, pay equity. And I have Regina Barr here, and Regina and I are going to discuss this and hopefully help women get what they're worth. Regina, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. This is, as you said, a very important topic and something that I think everyone needs to pay attention to.
Okay, we got to figure this out because I've never understood why women make less money. Why do they make less money?
Probably the number one reason, and different people will say different things, is I believe women don't ask. And what's really fascinating is when young women come out of college or right into the workforce, the paying field, not the playing field, the paying field is level. And what happens is within the next promotion, maybe the second promotion after that, it really starts to radically change. And so when you look at young women coming out of college, as opposed to women who have exited the workforce, you would expect that the salary increases would be similar. And what happens is very often the young women just don't ask. They don't ask for what they want, they don't ask for what they deserve, and that's a big problem.
So are they just unsure about how much the men are making, or do they know and they just say, well, you know, I work for less? I mean, what happens? I don't get it.
I think that culturally we are not trained to ask for what we need and deserve. I think very often we are trained, or maybe wired might be a better word too, to take care of others first. Mm-hmm. So if you were to look at a woman who's got kids, they will negotiate and go to the mat for those kids in ways that would blow your mind, but will not do it for themselves. So very much women tend to focus outwardly mm-hmm. on others as opposed to focusing mm-hmm. inwardly on themselves. The issue with that is very often women have sole responsibility. You know, we have a lot of single family households where the woman is the primary breadwinner. We have women who are living longer than men. So what happens is over time, the fact that they're earning less means that they have less in retirement, they live longer, they're taking care of more people, they're taking care of their elderly parents, sometimes their siblings, they're taking care of their children, and then they're trying to take care of themselves. So what happens is those women often are finding themselves without enough money or in poverty, and it all starts with the salary. And that's why that's so important.
I'm going to tell you something that I've noticed that's very interesting. I noticed that women that sell on Amazon sell differently than men that sell on Amazon. It's a very interesting thing. Now, I could be pulled over the coals for this, but I've noticed that women seem to put more energy into the products that they're selling, while men, they choose products that are winners, or they determine which products are winners, and they try to be very hands-off with the product, which raises the level of money that they're making through their sales. Women tend to be more hands-on. They have to like the product, they have to do this with the product, that, and all that time equals out to be money that they're losing. So are women just naturally not as conscious of money in relationship to time? Or maybe they're not as conscious of the salary as they are of doing a great job?
Well, you know, it's interesting that you correlate time to money. So a lot of times when I'm talking to women and they're doing activities, I try to get them to put a price on it. Mm-hmm. So if you were doing, or if you had to hire out this activity and you had to pay $100 an hour to get that done, would you be spending your time on that right now? Or if you had to pay yourself $100 an hour, you'd be surprised how it really changes your mindset. So you might be onto something with that we tend to not put a value on our time because it's not something that we have to pay for. But we do actually pay for it because time is money, right? So I think that women do need to rethink how they look at their time. You know, we say yes to a lot of things. We're constantly asked to do things. You know the old saying, you want something done, give it to a busy person.
Exactly.
Even better, give it to a busy woman, right? We make things happen. And so I think what we have to really learn how to do is be strategic in what we say yes to, and let some of the other things go by the wayside so that we can do the things that have the most value, the biggest return on investment. And I think that women are not used to thinking about their time in that way. So for example, when you're in the workforce or in the workplace, what I find is a lot of women, they work really hard. Oh, these women work so hard, Lori. And they put their head down and they're working really hard. And then one day they pick their head up and they kind of look around and all of these people have bypassed them. So the problem is you can't just work really hard. You have to let somebody know what you're doing that is adding value to the company. And if you are doing things that are not adding value, which is not going to add value to your bottom line, you need to figure out what the things are that you need to be doing and then focus your time and energy on doing those things.
It's very interesting that you mention this, because I just was on a call yesterday with a woman from the UK and working with her, and it was really interesting. This one is so brilliant and he's so smart, and this one is such great business person, and this one is this and this one is that. But when it came time for her to talk about her, oh, we heard all the things that she's not good at. And you know what's really scary? This woman was an Olympic athlete. She coordinates all the events for Olympic Games around the world with volunteers from other cultures that speak other languages, getting all these volunteers together to move these events for the Olympics. Now, we're not talking about somebody who isn't prepared. She clearly is extremely prepared. But when you heard her talk about her, it sounded like she was one baby step from incompetent. What is up with that? I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that this woman that's so accomplished, she's done things that very few people in the world have done in these huge arenas. And this is the way she promotes herself. What?
Well, you hit on it right there. You said this is how she promotes herself. Women are, we grow up and women are sort of culturalized not to promote themselves. We hear messages like children should be seen and not heard, you know, and women take that to heart. We don't
Be
talk
a good
about
little girl.
Be a good little girl.
Ooh.
Don't overshadow your brother. Okay, so we get these messages and we grow up, then we're not quite sure how we're supposed to act. So that's number one. Number two, women don't like to brag. We are trained not to brag about ourselves. So what's interesting is very frequently I try to retrain women to think about their successes in a different way. And so I say to them, if it's a fact, it's not bragging. So look at it as if you're stating facts about yourself, not bragging about yourself. Guys do a great job of this. They're doing the high five, hey, I did this and I did that, and you know, it's all good. Women, if we do that, we tend to be put into a different light. And the other thing that I think, because we do tend to be relational, if when we're trying to promote ourselves and talk about our successes, if we can be more relational and share the credit without diminishing our own, sometimes that feels more comfortable to people, so especially women. So I tell them, if you can find other ways to do that, it makes it easier for them to do that, because clearly the woman you're talking about, she's clearly more than competent. Oh. And should be talking about herself in a way that makes her look powerful and confident, and not diminishing herself. And that's one of my biggest pet peeves with women. It's not even that they self-promote themselves, they self-demote themselves, and that's problematic. So if we could at least keep it neutral or promoting, that would be great, but unfortunately what mostly happens is they tend to self-demote, and we need to stop doing that.
One of the things I want to roll back and talk about is you're saying if women would look at how much it would actually cost to pay somebody to do the jobs that they're doing, I don't know that they could add that high. They're helping the kids with the homework, they're driving, so they're chauffeurs, they're tutors, they're doing the laundry, so they're laundress, they're cooks, they're doing the cleaning, they're taking care of the animals. I mean, and on, taking care of the parents. They're doing the shopping. They're doing the money managing. They're doing all the activities with the kids, teaching them. I mean, they're not gonna. They can't think about all those jobs that they're doing so well as being very valuable jobs. But they'll always tell you, well, you know, you could say, oh, this food is delicious. You're a great cook. Yeah, but you know, I'm not a good baker. I don't remember mentioning baking. You know what I mean? So you say you're great at something, but they'll tell you right there what they're not good at. The focus is where they're not as good.
Right.
And that's what I think one of the things that's holding them back. Instead of saying I'm excellent at doing this, and this is why I should make more money, they're focusing on, well, you know, I'm not really that good at this, and this.
Yeah, and the studies show that, you know, there's been a study done where they put out job descriptions. And so let's say there were 10 key attributes that the job was calling for. Men might only have 3 of them, and they will hone in on those 3 things and apply for the job. Women will look at it, and they see the 3 things that they don't have, and they don't apply for the job. So what I like to tell women is, you know what, put yourself out there. Let somebody else take you out of the running. Let somebody else, you know, find fault with your skills. Because 99% of the time when they put themselves forward, they've got 7 out of the 10. If the other 3 things are learnable, teachable, or can, you know, be acquired through training or some kind of education, they will get the job. So I always tell people, you know, get out of your own head. You know, let the other party weigh in and have an opportunity to tell you what they're thinking. So it is really a fascinating phenomenon, and you know, I think the key is, the first part is awareness. So I think if women just have an awareness and maybe start talking about this with their friends and colleagues, that can go a long way to helping to overcome some of that. You know, we've also talked about negotiation in the past, and one of the things that I would tell you, which I think when you put this into context, it can be eye-opening for women and probably their supportive spouses and others, that because of some of the differential in pay equity, women over the course of their careers, if you were to look at it age 25 and say they retired at 65, leave about $500,000 on the table. So I'm like a numbers gal, so I immediately have, that's a big number, so I have to always kind of divide that out. And I say to myself, well, how much is that on an annual basis? You know, that comes out to about $12,500 a year. Now, I don't know about you, but I can think of a lot of things that I could do with $12,500 a year, or $500,000 at the end of my career. So if you start to think about that, the impact that not having pay equity or asking for what you're worth or earning what you're worth, it has a phenomenal impact over your spending power, your financial security, your family's security. And if you could think about that, and actually if women were to think about that outside of themselves, if they just think about themselves, they're not going to do anything about it. But if they thought that they were putting their families at risk, I think they would pay more attention to this as an issue, and we might have more traction behind it.
You know what I think? If that was the woman's best friend, she would be infuriated that her best friend was making less money for that same job. However, when it's her, she doesn't, there's like an emotional disconnect. Mm-hmm. Well, that's just the way it is. It's almost an acceptance. But if it was her friend or her child, mm-hmm. Or even her husband, she'd be enraged. Mm-hmm. Enraged. So I think it's really what you're saying, that women really need to step outside themselves and think about what their families could do with an extra $500,000. If she can't think about her earning that and how important it is for her to earn that and the self-worth that she gets from that, at least think about the impact of others. Thank you so much for coming on today. I know April, let's just talk for a second. April is Pay Equity Month. Why is this, you know, what happens in April? Is this a way for us to keep focus on it, or is it a way for us to, you know, sit and cry into our tea? I mean, what is it?
No crying. No crying. We don't want to make anyone cry. No, historically what happens is the reason that April is Pay Equity Month is what they look at is what it would take for a woman, how much longer does she have to work to earn what her male counterpart made the end of the prior year. And so we literally have to work 3.5 months, almost into 4 months of the following year to make comparably what our male counterpart has made. So that's why typically April is pay equity month. Some people think it has to do with taxes. It has nothing to do with taxes. It has to do with how much longer we have to work to make the same amount of money.
That's scary. That is scary. We're going to leave our viewers with that because I think it's very important that they keep that in mind because I didn't know that. That's a very scary fact. So thanks so much for coming on today, Regina.
Thank you.
This has been wonderful. Regina Barr, always inspiring, always educating, always fabulous. Regina makes it happen. So thanks so much for being here, and thank you for tuning in. Lori Flecker, Soltar Solutions, Focus Forward. Hope to see you again soon.